Okay, I'm going to just put these problems up on the screen, and then you can choose whether you want to work on, pause them, see it. And so it's just like 9 questions today, so we're just looking at some trig stuff for the final. So these are released ACT questions. So I don't know that I would word them this way, but I would give you questions like this. So I want to know where the sine squared plus the sine equals 0 between 0 and 2 pi. Okay, so that means that when I square a number, so if I think about it, if I think about the unit circle, and it looks like all of these are decent numbers. If I'm at 0 degrees, my point is 1, 0. So the sine is opposite, which is 0 over hypotenuse, so it's 0. So if I do sine, so this is what the sine would equal, sorry. Okay, so if I do 0 squared plus 0, doesn't that give me 0? So it looks like anything that had 0 degrees would be an answer. Okay, so then I'm going to look at pi. Pi is over here, which is a -1, 0, so it's opposite, so opposite over hypotenuse, so it's still 0, so pi would also be in there. So it looks like, so I had zeros in there, 0 works, 0 and pi work, okay? And so then I would do pi over 2. So pi over 2 is 0 over 1, so the sine is 1 divided by 1. Opposite is 1, hypotenuse is always 1, so that's 1. So what is, if I put that into here, what is 1 squared plus 1? That would be 1 plus 1, which is 2, which does not equal 0, so it can't be that one. And if you think about it, 3 pi over 2 is down here, 0, -1, so that's a -1 over 1, which is a -1. So if I do that, a -1 squared is 1 plus 1 is still 2, which doesn't equal 0, so it can't be this one, so this is the answer. So I think this is a really good question to start with. I didn't really say pause, but this one is way harder than what I would have on your final, but I'm going to tell you right now, you should know what the sine of 0 is. You should know what the cosine of 0 is. The cosine of 0 degrees would be adjacent over hypotenuse, so the cosine of 0 is 1. So those are your quadrantal angles, and you should know them, okay? So now that we kind of talked kind of an opener there, I would like you to do this question. Pause and do it. Pause. Okay, so this is cosine, which is my x values, right? Because it's adjacent, so it's my adjacent leg, so it's my adjacent over my hypotenuse, and my hypotenuse is always positive. So I want greater than 1, which means my cosine is greater than 1. It's positive here, and my cosine is positive here. Okay, secant is the flip of the cosine. So that would be 1 over whatever it is. So my secant is also going to have the same signs. My secant is positive here, and my secant is positive here. Okay, but it wants negative. So wouldn't my secant be negative over here? So where are these the same? They aren't. No angle exists. This is a released ACT question. Would I give you this exact question? I think it's a little tricky, but it's the right idea. Here is another released ACT question. So I would like you to try this one. Actually, I think, was this the one on there? But no, I think it's a little different. Okay, so if I do this, I know this is a -4, this is -3, and this is 5. So the sine is a -3/5. I do believe this was the one I think I stole, because the cosine would be a -4/5, so this is wrong. The tangent would be a negative or a negative, so that's a positive. The cotangent would still be positive, and the secant is going to be, secant is the flip of the cosine, so that would be a -5/4 because the cosine is the 4. So A is the correct one. Okay, I would like you to pause and figure this one out. Pause. Try it. Okay, so if my sine is positive, that means that it's 1 over 2. I don't know my x here. That's a positive sign. Or it's 1 over 2. Oh, geez Louise. It's 1 over 2 here, and I don't know the x, but I do know it's negative. So it's one of these two. So it's actually two answers. So if I did this, I know Pythagorean theorem is 1 squared plus x squared equals 2 squared. So this is x squared, 4 minus 1 is 3. So it's x equals plus or minus the square root of 3, right? So this leg, that's not my answer. This leg, it could either be a negative root 3 or a positive root 3. So now let's do this. I'm looking for the cosine. So the cosine would be adjacent over hypotenuse. So this would be a negative root 3 over 2. And this one would be a positive root 3 over 2. So my answer was E. Okay. What is the smallest positive angle that is coterminal? So I'm going to get my calculator out. You can't see it. Coterminal means they hit at the same place. So if I minus 360, so 846 minus 360, I'm going back one circle. That's 486, so that's not the smallest. I'm going to minus 360 again, minus 360 again, and I get 126. And if I minus 360 again, I'm going to be negative, and it wants the smallest positive angle, so my answer is 126. Okay, what is the period of the function? So remember, this is the cycle, okay? Now, if you look at this, I can tell by my answers there's pi's in them. If I were to give this question to you on a final, I would say in radians, what is the period? So remember that the period equals 2 pi divided by the cycle. So that would be 2 pi divided by 5. So my answer is 2 pi over 5. Okay, I would like you to pause and try this one. Okay, I would definitely give you this on a final. The sine of the angle, so I'm going to do the sine of the angle is positive. So that's up. So that's going to be in this quadrant and this quadrant. So I am either in quadrant 1 or quadrant 2. Okay, and so now I'm doing the tangent of the angle is negative. So remember, the tangent is the negative when the signs are different. So that would be in this quadrant and this quadrant, which is 2 or 4. So the answer to this question is quadrant 2. That's definitely on your final. Right like that. I don't think it's a tricky question. Okay, take a look at this one. This was giving some people trouble, one like this. Try to get your answer. Pause. So this is 360. If I go around again, this is 720. If I go here, this is 810. If I go here, this is 900. And I'm looking at 875, so that would be 25, which makes sense because this is 25. So right here, this is a positive, but in quadrant 2, isn't my tangent negative? So my answer to this is B. Okay. All right, so that is the review. I just wanted to go over a few. I would strongly suggest that you're taking a look at your final review. You're not going to walk in the day of the final and get the grade that you want if you haven't done some of the review. So you have stuff to do today. You can do that stuff and then work some on the review.